Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, I left you talking about how the best, Wharton School of Business, what's the best way to assure the best asset allocation to assure you wouldn't run out of money in retirement. And they said it would be stocks combined with fixed index annuities. How do we do that? And what about fixed index annuities? I've talked about annuities before on the program. This is one of those areas some people say, I don't like annuities, or, I heard annuities are bad, or maybe I had a bad experience with annuities. So this is one of those areas where, yes, there are about over 1,000 different annuity products. And if you look at variable annuities, I recommend avoiding those. Why? Because variable annuities, I'm investing in the stock market, but in investing in the stock market, I'm also adding fees to that investment over what I could get if I just went out and got mutual funds, in other words. So, and with when I use no-load funds, I'm going to be looking, if I'm going to invest in the stock market, I want to go with the lowest cost investment portfolio I can. Okay, I want to keep my cost minimal and yet still get the asset allocation that I want. So with with variable annuities, all right, what happens? Well, one, I don't have all those, I haven't found a variable annuity yet that would allow me to do the asset allocation that I was showing you earlier in the program. So that's one negative. Number two is they all add additional cost and fees that I'd just as soon avoid, because if there's costs and fees added, what does that do to my return? That takes away from my return. I don't want to pay them for that. I can do this without that, all right? So that's one. So if we take out variable annuities, now there goes about 700 of the 1,000, give or take, annuities that are out there. So we just eliminated 2/3 or 3/4 maybe even of annuities that we're looking at. And maybe that's why you had a bad experience. Maybe you had one of those where you lost money. All right, with a fixed annuity, on the other hand, whether it's an immediate fixed, a deferred fixed, a fixed index annuity, or a straight up fixed annuity, you don't have to worry about that. These guarantee your principal. All right, so let's look at a fixed index annuity in this scenario. They have fixed annuities, by the way, which work like CDs, where you get a set amount of interest for a specified period of time, and at the end of which you can either keep your money in there without penalties after that, by the way, or you can do something else with it. Now the problem is interest rates are really low right now, so there may not be, on the fixed side, you may not be able to get enough interest to make it worth your while, especially now that we know that interest rates are going to start going up. So what about a fixed index annuity? How does that work? All right, well, I'm going to share a couple of things with you. There's an article that I'm going to refer to as well that was 7 key facts about fixed index annuities that I thought you might enjoy. First off, the principal is loss protected. In other words, now my principal, the amount that I invest, is guaranteed against loss. It's not going to go down in value. Okay? What's another? Fixed index annuities. Now, keep in mind, when I'm talking about fixed index annuities, I'm going to talk in general, and then I'm going to break this down into more specifics, because what do we know, right? Of the fixed index annuities, they're not all equal. So that doesn't mean when I say fixed index annuities, that's the way to go, that you go out and you maybe end up with a bad fixed index annuities, one that has fees, one that has caps, things that limit your growth and take away through fees and such. So we want uncapped as one of the key parts. So we're going to talk more about that. But first off, they're great performers. According to a study, again, University of Pennsylvania's David Babel, he's a professor of insurance and finance at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. They did a study, Wharton School, I mentioned it earlier. They've actually done a couple of them. Since the inception in 1995, many fixed index annuities have outperformed corporate and government bonds, as well as many equity mutual funds, money markets, and in any combination of those that you put together. In other words, stocks and bonds and what have you. So index values is another thing. You can lock them in. They have different resets. They can have a 1-year reset, a 2-year reset, 3-year, 4-year. What does that mean? It means this. Let's say I got an index annuity beginning of this year. The market goes down. Okay, I've held on to my gain, my money. I haven't lost anything, but the market dropped way down here. I get a reset. That means that I keep my money, but I get to come back into the market now at this low point. So imagine I didn't take any losses, held on to my principal, and now I'm coming back in at a low point in the market when it's poised to go up. You can see how that benefit would work and why index annuities have done so well, and why these studies are showing more and more how these can be a benefit to you. But again, you need to understand the good ones from the others, all right? Because as I mentioned, we've eliminated about 700 of the different annuity products out there, but of the 300 that are left, we'd still break that down. There's only about maybe, I would say about 10% of those, okay, where you can get uncapped growth, where they're not going to say, oh, you can only get 3 or 4% this year. No matter if the market went up 10, you're capped at 3 or 4. Well, that's no good, okay? We want to get a better return than that. So why cap it? What if we could get 100% participation in the index, okay? Or at least if we're going to get participation, nothing is going to, you know, maybe 75% or 80% participation, but no cap in terms of taking, you know, limiting us in terms of how much we might make in a given year. So those are important. And the other part is fees. You can find there are index annuities that don't have fees. Some do. So you want to, again, weigh those as to which one is going to make the most sense for you. All right, I'm going to show you another slide. This is the J.P. Morgan Mosaic. So this is an index that's used by a company called Nationwide. All right, Nationwide is on your side. All right, let's take a look at this slide. This is a J.P. Morgan Mosaic. And on it, we're going to see the benefit of a broadly diversified approach, if we can get that slide up. This one is showing basically the countries here, and on this it's showing 12 different asset categories. All right, there we go. And that, if you look at the 12 asset categories, they're international in scope. So we have some domestic, some international, all that in there. Take these 12 asset categories, and we're going to now, each month they look at those, and we'll look at the next slide. And it's how to harness positive momentum. So here's the concept that J.P. Morgan came up with. He said, let's take these 12 asset categories, and every month let's evaluate them. Let's look at which one of the last 6 months has had the best return. Now let's select the best 6 performers then over the last 6 months, and let's put those together. Now let's weight those. That means let's put the best performer, let's put more money in that one. The next best performer will put more, you know, the next more money. And so on to the least amount, the lowest performer gets the least amount of money. So that's the way we do it. That's what that third, step 3, as you can see on the chart, shows. Now that's the way, now that's our portfolio for this next month. And then after this month, we do it again. And every month we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. And this is all basically just an algorithm set up within a computer that takes in all this information, this program, and each month changes your allocation. Well, what happens? Let's take a look then at the next chart and see what happened. If you look at the green shaded area, that's the J.P. Morgan Mosaic returns since 1999 through 2014. And you can see over that period that it stayed well above that blue shaded area, which is the S&P 500 index. And what did we learn about the S&P 500 index, right? That's the 500 biggest companies, make up 70% of the equity in the stock market, and outperform 96% of equity mutual funds. Outperform the average investor by double, okay? So, and yet, so if I know that the S&P does better than the average investor, the average equity mutual fund is an example, the average investor in the market, and then the Mosaic is outperforming that, whoa, maybe I've gone to something here. So let's take a look at the next chart, and let's look at it year to year. And you see, now in 1999, it's showing that the S&P 500 that year, that was a big year for the S&P 500. The return was over 19% compared to the Mosaic at around 3%. But when you go through those negative periods, the Mosaic was positive. So when the market dropped 10, the Mosaic made 5. The market dropped 13, 23, the Mosaic made money. And when you look at the bottom line, the S&P over that period, 3.28%, and the Mosaic, 5.53%. this is another alternative. Maybe this is something we should look at in our portfolios. And then how can we do it? We're going to talk about that, how you could include this index maybe in what you're currently doing. So join me here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.